So let's talk about ecosystems. First of all, when we use the word ecosystems, we use also a part of this word. It comes from the Greek word oikos, that means home. So we are talking about our home. And this home is made of many things that are biotic things and abiotic things. So we have living organisms that are interacting with the surroundings, matter and energy coming from the sun, and also interacting with the sky and its darkness. So that's important to put these in this all the things that we will see today in this perspective. So the relationship between the ecosystem and the sky is a part of how the ecosystem works, and it's an interaction that is biunivocal. So the ecosystems are affected by these non-biotic factors, and also affects the environmental component like soil, water, and atmosphere, and so on. So there is a continuous connection between these two parts of what defines an ecosystem. Ecosystems are different in size, and their complexity and types, typology, and so on. Basically, they rely on flows of energy. We already said that comes from the sun, and this energy allows the processing of the inorganic matter, and allows the activation of cycles involving nutrients that are the base of the living organisms that are the part constitutes the ecosystem. A basic and fundamental process is clearly the photosynthesis, and this allows us to understand how living organisms basically use this inorganic the energy and the inorganic matter to combine them and to produce organic matter, and also byproducts that are useful for us, for instance, like oxygen. And is already an ecosystem services, the oxygen production, for instance. So this is a function that is performed by the ecosystem, but it's a function that is performed by the ecosystem, the ecosystem in the nature, and we see that it is useful, so we call it ecosystem services, but we will see that deeper in a short time. So ecosystems are basically an organization of living organisms that feed on each other, to say in a very simple way, that occupies in this network of relationship different positions. So we have primary producers, that are those that combine inorganic matter to produce biomass, and then we have consumers that feed on each other, and then we have decomposers that break down the organic matter and put back these simpler compounds in circulation to be again exploited by the primary producer in order to restart the cycle. So here, what I wanted to show you is that it's when we talk about ecology, ecosystem, we talk about relationship between different organisms that are organized in a flow that is a food chain, a food web that relies on natural resources, energy from the sun, and follows biological patterns that are already influenced by the alternation of sunlight and dark sky. So in doing that, these organisms are basically controlling the concentration and distribution of inorganic matter like water, or organic or nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and so on. So they basically regulates how the biosphere works, and this activity of regulation, that is a function, is important also for us. We can also think about the regulation of CO2 concentration in the atmosphere and the role played by vegetation and the oceans to have an idea about this issue. Here you have some examples of the complexity of these cycles. I don't go through each one of them, but just to give you an idea about the fact that ecosystems play a crucial role in controlling the water cycle, as well as the carbon cycle, as already mentioned, and the nitrogen, and so on. Talking about ecosystem, I also talked about the complexity, and a way to measure this complexity and is also through the measure of biodiversity. So how many species, for instance, are part of ecosystems, and this indicator is important because it is a way to assess the resilience of the ecosystem. We can have biodiversity expressed in terms of diversity of the genetic pool of a species. So we have intraspecific biodiversity, or we can have biodiversity expressed as a number of species from different within the ecosystems. But also we have a diversity in terms of ecosystems, forests, grassland, and so on. As I said, it is important the level of diversity that we measure within the ecosystem, because it's also a proxy of the resilience of the ecosystem, because basically, the greater the biodiversity, the higher the ecosystem's capacity to withstand environmental stresses. And so the reduction in biodiversity, which is not always a bad thing depending on the ecosystem, but generally means a reduced capacity of ecosystem to withstand environmental changes, and it can be an indication of a reduction in the functions that the ecosystem can perform, and hence in the reduction of ecosystem services that are provided to human communities.